According to a study conducted this year by the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration of the statistics of 2015, 10% of all fatal car crashes were caused by at least one of the drivers being distracted. That equals 3,477 fatalities. It's a staggering number. If you consider if you're traveling at highway speed, 55 miles an hour, and the average time it takes to conduct a text message, 5 seconds, the car travels the length of a football field, 100 yards. It's an incredible amount of distance. And think of all the things that could happen in that span while your eyes are not on the wheel, or while your eyes aren't on the road, or while you're not paying attention really to what's going on around your surroundings. So it's actually kind of strange to think that even though the overall quantity of distracted driving incidents is increasing, the number of fatalities is decreasing. And I believe that can be contributed to two major factors. The first being an increase in law enforcement efforts, and the second being an increase in the technology that is attributed to driving and texting. So on the first point, the law enforcement nature of it, text messaging is now illegal in 47 states and the District of Columbia. That's according to the Insurance Institute of Highway Safety. Now, that's widely impressive that so many states, almost the entire nation, have adopted that this is an unsafe practice and can now penalize drivers for it. Now, that's not to say that someone can be pulled over just for having a phone in their hand. In most cases, it's an additional ticket. For, let's say, you have to get pulled over for reckless driving or speeding or running a red light, and the use of a non-hands-free device or distracted driving is usually a penalty on top of that. But that is even more incentive now for people to take a safer and not text and drive, take a safer stance, and instead pull over or wait a little bit till you get to your destination to actually look something up on your phone or do a text. But not only passenger drivers are affected, commercial drivers are also affected. Citations for commercial drivers can go right up to loss of license, a fine for the driver themselves of up to $3,750, on top of a fine for the actual commercial company, or the employer, of $11,000. That's according to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. So not only are the penalties for the drivers themselves, but the companies are also getting docked. So you'll see efforts, public seminars, or safety hearings where it's also important for the employers to know what their drivers are doing, because it impacts them not only financially, but if their driver's off the road, then that impacts their schedule and their bottom line and everything that has to do with their business. But as you'll see from my visual aid here, really the drivers that they want to target are the largest percentages here. As you can see on the chart, almost 25% of all total drivers are in that 20 to 29-year-old age bracket. And correlatively, you can see that also 30 to 35% of all cell phone users are in that same range. So you'll see many efforts targeted to that demographic. It's just the widest base, and it's the most coverage you can get. And it's very important to focus on that larger number. It just seems that it makes more sense to hit the wider base. You would think that maybe elderly drivers or those that are maybe the reaction time isn't as fast would be the higher target, but you can see on the chart here that actually 20 to 29-year-olds is where most of the efforts are focused, not only for the legislation, but for law enforcement themselves. And the other aspect is the technology. So many vehicles now have an infotainment or an in-dash GPS or XM radio built right into the dashboard. And the car manufacturers are also realizing that they have to make a conscientious effort towards safety. And many of those vehicle systems can't be operated above certain miles per hour, beyond just changing the stations. But if you want to go into the settings or change presets or pair your Bluetooth device, many vehicles now have speed sensitive settings, or in fact have to be in park to allow you to access those menus and those settings, just to keep drivers' eyes on the road. They really shouldn't be looking at the screen and trying to read through menus. So the manufacturers themselves have adjusted the technology. Instead of just boundlessly going forward, they're actually being conscious and limiting what a driver can do and what conditions should be safe or not. And also, as far as distracted driving, or maybe if drowsy driving is also a subcategory of distracted driving, the cars themselves have become more technologically advanced with features such as collision warning, automatic braking systems if the vehicle senses that you're too close to the car in front of it, lane detection or lane departure warnings, many technological advancements by the manufacturers in an effort to curtail this unsafe driving or distracted driving that's happening in America. So I believe it's those two main factors that lead to a decrease in the fatalities, even though the number of overall distracted driving incidents is increasing. With the lower speeds and the law enforcement also cracking down, the number of fatalities are dropping. And I believe both efforts, both the legislative and manufacturing, are becoming effective, and the statistics show that as well. Thank you.